Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's BDF coming at you with another video, and just doing a little overtime at work. Got some free time. There's nothing going on this property right now. So basically, I come here because I heard a rumor, nothing too serious, but just passing rumor, and it prompted me to start the video. They were basically saying the Lakers are they have players obviously that they can use for a trade. And one scenario that someone brought to the table was trading either Kuzma or Dennis Schroeder for Victor Oladipo. Now, first of all, Victor Oladipo just got to Houston. I don't think Houston's interested in moving him. I think they like the idea of having his contract on the books and having him either come off the books or him playing into what they do, and maybe they pay him if they love what he's doing. He seems to be a pretty good fit, to be dead honest with you. I would have personally, and I've said this twice on other videos, would have liked to have had Caris LeVert, but we obviously know what's going on with Caris. So certainly having Victor Oladipo at this point is definitely the move to make. But as far as the Lakers are concerned, I mean, sure, would we like to have a player like Vico? Yeah, yeah, he would be great on our team. I mean, we don't necessarily need a player that's not a shooter. We don't need less shooting, but I do think we can improve defensively. And Victor Oladipo is one of the better defensive players at his position in the game. The problem is whether or not he's got a whole lot left in the tank after some of the injuries he's had. But to be completely honest with you, he's looked great to start the season and has proven me wrong as somebody who thought he may be down a few steps and probably going to have to take on a role that's much lesser than what we're used to seeing him take on. But no, he looks like himself. And, you can't question whether or not his game is where he needs to be, because he's been working very hard on his game and he's worked himself into all-star status. So Victor Oladipo is a good player for any team to really have, depending on what role you need, what your needs are. I think he could fit in most situations, and ours is no exception to that. However, I'm not trading Dennis Schroeder for him. I'd rather have Dennis Schroeder. Kuzma's that's a little tricky. I'm kind of on the fence about him just in general. I've made a million videos on him, so you know exactly what I think of his game if he's to ever get into a situation where he's confident and has the minutes to back that up. But what I'm also noticing, and this is honest, I'm also noticing that the field is becoming more all the way around. And what does that actually mean? That means that the average player in this league can do more than one or two things. That's what I'm finding. What we've known to be average in the past, we may need to adjust our thinking to that. There are less players roaming the league that only do one thing. And Kuzma, unfortunately, as currently constructed, is one of those players that only does one thing. You just score. And if he's not scoring, he's not as effective really doing anything. Now, you and I both know, if you watch my videos, that I think he's capable when he gets in the right space and gets the right coaching and all the stuff falls in line. I think he's an assist guy and a rebound guy. Not really much of a rebound guy, but he can get more assists than he's shown. He has a passing ability that I don't think we've really taken advantage of. And defensively, he hustles. I always give him credit for hustling. He's not going to leave you feeling like he didn't hustle. He's just not effective, and you want him to be at his size. But I think what the Lakers are determining, and what the league will find out, is that he's probably better guarding smaller players. He's a 6'10" guy, but he's not overly strong. I'm not going to call the man soft, because that's disrespectful. But if there's a way to say that without it being disrespectful, there you have it. He's not a power forward. He's not a power player. He's more so about finesse. He's more so about scoring. And he's very talented at what he does. But you don't want him out there banging with people. You don't want him out there trying to impose physicality down there. That's just not his body. That's not his game. But it's not because he's lacking in spirit or heart or anything like that. It's just, some people are just not meant for all that banging, and I don't think he's one of those people, despite being very tall. He can get stronger. I certainly think that, but you'll never see him turn into like Bobby Portis, who bangs. Any of those guys that really are known for being physical. Montrez, that kind of thing. That's not him. But of course, he can do things that those guys can't do, so his value is going to be very high once he starts to mature. It's just taking him a little longer than some of these other guys, and I think that's partially because of the Lakers not really having the role for him to kind of take advantage of what it is that he does. And they're not focused on him turning him into a star or anything like that. We don't need him to be nothing but a player. So his development, I think, is kind of taking a backseat to this team, which is why I've always felt, well, not always, but since we traded Lonzo Ball, that he should probably be gone as well into a situation where he has a point guard that can get him the ball and a coaching staff that values him as a top scoring option. So he can get the same shots that B.I. is getting. That's what Kuzma needs, and not so much of a structured, okay, find your way in between these two legendary superstars type of situation. So that's what I think. Would I be open to trading Kuzma for the right situation? I am one of those people that think that is what's best for Kuzma as an individual player. And I've said this so many times, so please forgive me if this video seems like a recap of something I've already said, because this is just my opinion. It's always been that way, pretty much. But at the same time, it's like I'm not willing to give him up for just nothing. Victor Oladipo is a hell of a player. He can do more than Kuzma can. He's a better player than Kuzma. But for whatever reason, in my brain, I don't want Oladipo over Kuzma, despite Kuzma being a struggling player and Oladipo being a star, coming off injury but looking good and still young enough. I mean, if he never had an injury or repeated injuries to his legs, I don't think we're sitting here talking about Victor Oladipo being anything less than an all-star every year. I mean, he's just that kind of player. He plays both sides of the floor, and he's just getting better and better. His jump shots come along, all that stuff. So I don't want to underrate Victor Oladipo in this video. I guess for myself, I'd just rather have the 6'10 guy or the 6'8 guy, however tall Kuzma is, that can stretch the floor because he can play more positions than a guy like Victor Oladipo. But is he more effective? I don't see that at all. So would I be happy with that trade? I don't think so. But is my motivation for happiness backed by the right things? I have my questions about that. I'd have to go dig a little deeper and figure out why I wouldn't want the better player. I think it just has to do with injury and age and ultimately height for me. So I'm saying no to that rumor. I don't think that rumor is true. I'm not sitting here telling you guys that that's on the table. It's not. This is just something I saw in the forum that prompted me to make a video. So that's one thing I wanted to say. And another thing I wanted to say is just to kind of tag along to what I said, that there are players out there who are coming along, who have been drafted either this year, last year, the year before that, who you are starting to realize can really fill up the box score, who can really do a whole lot. It's just a bunch of names that come to mind. One guy that I discovered, I haven't seen any highlights on him, but he plays for the Houston Rockets. His last name is Tate. This brother, he's blocking shots and getting assists and getting boards. It's very rare for me to see a player that blocks shots and assists at a high clip. That is not an average thing to see. I've looked at a lot of stats. I've played a lot of fantasy basketball, as you guys have heard me speak on these videos. Jokic comes to mind. Powell comes to mind. KD, even though KD doesn't really pass like that, he comes to mind because he can get you 7 assists and also block 3 shots. But most of the guys in this league who are known for being prolific shot blockers do not necessarily help you in the assist category. Like, that's rare unless the guy's a superstar. Nikola Jokic is the kind of guy that comes to mind first because he's such a prolific passer and he's so tall, but he's not a shot blocker. He can block shots because of his height and the fact that he plays the center position. Guys are going to drive at him, try to lay the ball up over him, and he's going to eat that. But he's not a defensive-minded superstar per se, not to my knowledge anyway. I'm open to being wrong about that, but I just don't think he's a defensive guy. AD eats him up every time, but AD eats up everybody. That's a non-factor. But the point is, it's just a rare thing. It's really rare. Now, they say he's a small forward, so I'd have to look at this player to know what he really is about. He's on the back of the Houston bench, so he's playing behind guys like Christian Wood and he plays small forward. P.J. Tucker, Aaron Gordon, now Victor Oladipo. I'm sure they're all gonna, not Aaron Gordon, Eric Gordon, excuse me. I'm sure those guys are all gonna play small forward at some point. They still got Ben McLemore, so all those guys are gonna be fighting for that position. Obviously, Daniel House is another guy who has a lot of talent on that Houston Rockets team, but boy, when you look at the stats of this Tate dude, I don't think you even know his real first name. I think maybe Desan. I literally just discovered this man about an hour ago and haven't seen nothing on him but stats. But those stats just are glaringly impressive as it pertains to what he's doing out there. He'll have a 3-block game and a 7-assist game with like enough points and enough rebounds to make it comparable. I don't know if that tells us enough, if it pertains to his upside or anything. Maybe he's just having some good games. Who knows? But that's rare, man. B.I. is another guy who can get you assists and block shots as well. Comes to mind. Of course, Giannis is a guy that definitely comes to mind when you're talking about that. But even so, this guy, he may be a rookie or a second-year guy because I never heard of him. He's on the back of the bench, so he's getting limited minutes. How he's able to do what it is that I saw in those box scores is something I'm very, very curious about and very intrigued about. So, yeah, pay attention to Tate of the Houston Rockets. That's who I've been discussing here. Another guy that I'm looking at, Peyton Pritchard. Now, of the Boston Celtics, they're log-jammed a little bit at the point guard position in Boston, always are for some reason. Marcus Smart continues to keep a job there, continues to make money there. I like Marcus Smart, but he is so streaky as it pertains to his shot. He can either make 7 threes in a row or miss 7 threes in a row, but you can count on him taking 7 threes. But he makes up for it on the defensive end, so he's an excellent player to have. But I just hate him at the point guard position. I've always hated him at the point guard position. I hate it. But he's getting better and better every year. He's turned into a real effective player, so I don't want to crap all over his name in any way, shape, or form. I just hate him with the Boston Celtics. I think his value with that team would be so much better if they traded it for some pieces that they need, like, say, a center, because they always have enough point guards. And I know he's their best defender. He's one of the best defenders in all of basketball, but he's a point guard, bro. And he's a different type of point guard as it pertains to his body type because he has such incredibly strong lower body strength. So I like Marcus Smart in some areas, but his non-shooting issues, streaky issues, drive me crazy, and so on and so forth. But he does get you a lot on the. He can do a lot for you, especially when he's feeling himself. He can do both. He's close to an all-star player. I think he may make an all-star team before it's over with. But you look at a guy like Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard's a guy who's got super high basketball IQ from what I've seen. He's a rookie point guard, white guy. And he reminds me of one of those guys who knows where he needs to be, knows where everyone else needs to be, and finds himself in the right positions to do exactly what he needs to do. Super, super heady guy. That's what he comes off as. I haven't seen a whole lot of him, but from what I have seen, he just seems to know what he's doing. High IQ. So he's the type of dude, you give him more minutes, he's going to give you big-time production, and as the years progress, I would not be surprised to see him turn into something really good because he seems like one of those guys. He doesn't have an incredible body per se, but he knows what he needs to do, man. And then, of course, Kemba Walker's down there. So Peyton Pritchard's one of those guys, just gotten off in a tangent, but he's one of those guys who can really do a whole lot for you in a lot of different categories. Steals, assists, he can score some. He's not going to block any shots, rebounding, but he can do some things for you if you give him 30 minutes a game. So he's another one of those guys. As you probably heard me mention yesterday, Tyrese Maxey and Shake Milton, both of those guys I think are like that. And it's just a bunch of guys around the league that are starting to pop up that maybe you didn't hear about 2 years ago. Maybe they didn't get any minutes 2 years ago, but now they are acting up. Bridges from Phoenix is the guy that comes to mind. Mikal Bridges. Never forget what Philly did. I'll never forget that. They traded him after drafting him, and his mama worked for the team, and they drafted her son, and she got on TV saying how happy she was for him to go to the Sixers, and they traded him to Phoenix like an hour later. And they traded him for a player that literally never put on the uniform but like twice, broke his foot, and now he's somewhere in Detroit not doing anything. One of the worst trades and one of the most... That just sat poorly with me. It's the best way to describe it. I think I probably made a video for it back then. But even now, thinking about it, looking at how Mikal panned out, that was such a horrible trade. And it was a bad thing to do. And they deserved it not panning out. So, yeah, that's what you get, Philly. But Mikal Bridges is one of those guys. And there's just a bunch of guys around this league, man. I'm telling you. If you're just a one-trick pony in the NBA today, you had better be super amazing at that one trick. You better be super damn amazing. Because if you're not, if you can't give me stuff in about 3 or 4 different categories, there may not be a place for you in the league going forward. There just may not be a place for you. The field is getting stronger. Now, what may balance that out is the prospects of an expansion team, which is something that they've been talking about recently, trying to make up for lost revenue. An expansion team may be the remedy. I hear it's between LA and Seattle. I hope to God it's Seattle. LA does not need another basketball team. This is a Laker town. We will not support another team. And that's something that I think people need to understand. For those of us who are not LA natives like myself, the Clippers are having a hard enough time with a very good team to gather any real support in this city. They may be able to get people outside of this city, but this actual city, like LA, we're not talking about IE, we're not talking about even further down the road and like other places, outskirts, Lancaster, none of that. We talking about LA. We don't give no damn about no Clippers, and we're not going to give a damn about whoever team you guys are trying to bid to get here. Now, I get it. I get it more so than I'm allowing you to understand, because I personally think that small markets need to be extracted entirely. They do. And it's not something that I take pride in saying, but I think if the league wants to continue to move in the direction that it's going in, you need more LA, New Yorks, and less Sacramento's, Utah's. Like, you need less of those teams, unfortunately. Because guys don't want to play there. As soon as guys get there, they're devising their way out of there. They just want to get their bag their first 7 years, and then they're getting the hell out of those places. And it's not good for the city to watch a player develop, fall in love with that player, and then watch him go where he actually wants to be. That's hard. That's just that snatches your heart from you, you know. And as somebody who went through that on my own scale with the kids that we've had, Lord knows we've had just about all the young talent that's come into this league over the last 7 years has been Laker uniform to start. It feels that way anyway. And to watch them all go, it never feels good, especially when they turn into something. And most of our guys did. So this is a Laker fan coming off a championship telling you this. So I can only imagine how a Minnesota fan would feel if they lost Towns, or a Milwaukee fan would feel if Giannis left, et cetera, et cetera. Those cities should have teams, but to keep up and to balance out with today's modern basketball player, athlete, to try to get them to want to stay with you and come to your city and live in your town, it is a hard thing to accomplish. It's just hard, especially when these kids come from places that are not as small as some of the cities that they now have to live in. No, we're not doing that. It's probably better that LA have 3 teams, that New York have 3 teams, and Miami have 3 teams, like seriously. And that way, those teams will always have a draw to be able to get players. It makes the GM's job easier. It probably makes the owner's job so much easier. It makes his investment more worthwhile. So I get it. I'm on board. But as a LA native, I am telling you, we don't want another team. We don't want one. We want the Lakers. We want the Clippers to move. So we definitely don't need a third team. But you may be able to get away with it if you pull it off like Golden State. Don't call it the LA such and such. Call it the California such and such. And you'll get away with it that way. You will get away with it that way. But if you call that team the LA anything, it's a mistake. But it's an even bigger mistake to neglect Seattle. It's an even bigger mistake to let another expansion team come into this league without them having theirs back. That is one of the best basketball cities in the world, and I know that contradicts everything I said about small markets, but I literally do not care. The Seattle Supersonics should have their team. They should be given another shot. They have a whole city full of people that want to support them. The WNBA won a championship. They get big support there. The NFL's there. They've won. They get big support there. Baseball, Seattle Mariners, I don't know how much support they get, but they've been around, so that tells me they should be getting some support. Seattle should have their teams, bro. They should not have ever been without the Supersonics. Gary Payton's jersey needs to be up in somebody's rafters. This doesn't make any sense, okay? And he's not the only one. There's many a Seattle Supersonic who deserves to have their jerseys back in the rafters above the team that they play for. So get the Seattle Sonics back their team. I don't care. I'm an LA native, and I'm telling you, I'm hoping that Seattle beats us for the bid. Facts. BDF 44 coming at you. Thank you so much for everything that you guys doing, following me, listening to me, talk about whatever it is I'm talking about. Thank you for your time. My name is BDF once again. I'm out.